Let's look at an additional problem for basic earnings per share. Just as a review, earnings per share is calculated, basic earnings per share, let me rephrase that, is net income minus preferred divs divided by the weighted average shares outstanding for the year. Okay, so that's our basic earnings per share formula. So December 31st, 2017, Albright Corporation had outstanding 388,000 shares of common stock and 10,000 shares of 9.5% $100 par value cumulative non-convertible preferred stock. On May 31st, 2018, Albright sold for cash 12,000 shares of its common stock. No cash dividends were declared for 2018. For the year ended December 31st, 2018, Albright reported a net loss of $2,038,000. All right, so let's start with our basic formula. Let's find our numerator. So we're going to start with our net income. Now, in this case, we had a net loss of $2,038,000. So net losses start out negative. Now we're going to subtract our preferred dividends. Now notice it said no cash dividends were declared, but that doesn't matter because our preferred members have first right to dividends. So when we have preferred stock, we've got to take that into account. So how do we find the dividend right on preferred stock? Well, preferred stock dividend has to be stated. And in this case, it's stated as 9.5%. What does that mean? Well, it's 9.5% of par. And so, excuse me, when we look at this, we're going to take our par value of $100 and we're going to multiply that par value by 9.5%. And when we do that, we get $9.50 per share outstanding. So then we're going to multiply that and we're going to take that and multiply it by, let's see, how many shares do we have? 10,000 shares outstanding. So 9.5 times our 10,000. And that's going to give us a total preferred dividend right of 95,000. So even though we did not pay out dividends, this is preferred, cumulative preferred stock. We have to assume that that 95 has been reserved for our preferred members because they have first right. So we're going to do 2,038,000 loss minus 95. And what does that give us? Well, keep in mind we had a loss, so that's going to give us a loss of 2,133,000. Because even though we have 2,038,000, 95,000 is still reserved for our preferred members, which makes our earnings for our common members go down. So we have a net loss in our numerator here of 2,133,000. All right, now let's find our weighted average shares. Now in this problem, we did not have a stock dividend, so we do not have to worry about stock dividends. But we did issue additional shares of stock. So what do we need to do? Well, we need to take our beginning. We had 388,000 in the beginning of the year. Now, during the year, so in essence, those were outstanding 12 out of 12. So 1. So you would take that times 1 because they were outstanding for the whole year. Then we're going to add to that our new issuance. Now, we issued 12 more. The problem is this is a weighted average. Those 12,000 new shares were not outstanding for the entire year. So we need to multiply that by how many months they actually were outstanding out of 12. So they were issued on May 31st. So they were outstanding June, July, August, September, October, November, and December. So they were outstanding for 7 months out of 12. So notice we have to prorate those shares, okay? So we're going to take 12 times 7 out of 12, and we get, excuse me, 7,000 shares, all right? So that's going to equal 388 plus 7. So that's going to give me 395 weighted average shares outstanding. So be very careful when we talk about shares outstanding. Because if we issued shares inter-period during the year, we have to prorate those. However, if we give out a stock dividend, we treat it as if that stock dividend was out for the entire year. So just be careful with that. If we issue shares, you have to prorate. Stock dividends are treated as if they were outstanding all year. So that brings our weighted average shares to 395. So we're going to go in and do 395. So 2,133,000 divided by our 395 here gives us, let me find the answer, 5.4. But now that's a loss, so that's going to be a loss of $5.40 per share. So we've got negative earnings per share, which is perfectly possible if a company takes a loss during a year. We may see several of those. This is 2020 when I created this video, and we're sort of having some financial issues due to this crazy COVID-19 stuff. So when we look at this, it is possible for a company to report a loss during that year. So their EPS could be negative. Okay. Points to remember, even though we didn't pay out the preferred, we still have to back them out because preferred members have first rights to those earnings, and that's their dividend right. Then, when we issue new shares in the denominator, you've got to make sure that you average or do a weighted average on those shares. In other words, they have to be outstanding all 12 months. And in this problem, they were only outstanding 7 of those 12, so we have to prorate that down to the weighted average shares outstanding. All right, so hopefully this helps you understand a little bit more about basic earnings per share.